Take a look at this chart comparing power outage durations across developed nations. In Germany, citizens lose power for about 15 minutes a year. In Japan, it's 11. But in the United States, that bar shoots up to 120 minutes, and it is climbing. It is a staggering gap for a country powered by what is widely considered the largest, most complex machine ever built. The American electrical grid is a continent-spanning web of wires, transformers, and power plants designed to keep modern life humming. Yet for all its immense scale, this massive machine is routinely defeated by things you'd find in your neighborhood. A surprisingly high number of outages are caused by backyard rodents chewing through the wrong conductor. Most power outages originate with the mundane: a tree branch brushing a line, a control room software glitch, or a routine maintenance error can ripple out and shut down electricity for millions. This constant short-circuiting happens because we are forcing the dynamic demands of today into a rigid infrastructure designed for a different century. To understand why the system fails, we have to look at the physical hardware holding it together. Much of the grid's core architecture was constructed in the mid-20th century and is now showing heavy decay. Countless transmission lines, transformers, and generating plants across the country were built with a strict 50-year design lifespan. We are now well past that expiration date, relying on metal and concrete that is literally fatiguing under the load. Now add a rapidly changing climate to that fragile equation. Rising temperatures and volatile weather patterns act as a massive stressor, putting immense strain on this already weakened physical foundation. When extreme weather hits, whether it's a deep polar vortex or a torrential superstorm, the environment easily tears through these exposed, brittle arteries. Firm, you cannot power a hyper-connected digital economy using a disintegrating analog skeleton. The physical rot guarantees that system collapses will only become more frequent. The physical decay is compounded by the grid's original logic. It was built for centralized plants burning stock resources like coal or natural gas, fuels that provided a steady, predictable output that utilities could easily control. Today, we are injecting renewable energy sources into that exact same system. While solar and wind are essential for our climate goals, they are inherently decentralized, highly erratic, and entirely dependent on the weather. This animated diagram illustrates the physical crisis we face. Because we lack large-scale batteries to store excess electricity, the power supply must perfectly match consumer demand at every single second. It has to stay perfectly balanced. If a thick cloud blocks a solar farm or the wind suddenly dies down, the power supply plummets. That delicate equilibrium is instantly thrown into chaos. To prevent the lines from failing and triggering a blackout, human operators have to react immediately. They scramble to fire up older, carbon-heavy backup generators to fill the sudden void and stabilize the voltage. Integrating variable green energy onto this legacy architecture effectively pushes the entire machine closer to the breaking point. Invisible business structures and regulatory traps prevent us from fixing these physical and technical problems, starting with the legislative push for deregulation in the 1990s. Before then, electricity was managed as a localized, guaranteed public service. Deregulation turned it into a commodity. It began being traded across vast distances by different companies looking to maximize profit, decoupling the generation of power from the physical limits of local wires. This fractured market gave rise to what industry insiders called the utility death spiral, a financial trap slowly suffocating traditional power monopolies. As more homeowners install their own rooftop solar panels, they buy less electricity, causing utility revenues to shrink. Yet those same utilities are still legally required to maintain the local wires and manage the chaotic two-way flow of power going back and forth between those homes. The traditional business model is effectively imploding. Utilities are trapped with shrinking profits and stranded assets, lacking both the financial incentive and the available capital to perform the massive structural overhauls the grid requires. For decades, our instinct has been to follow the hard path, the idea that we can brute force our way out of this by building massive new central power plants and stringing up thicker steel towers. That approach no longer works. We also face a staggering logistical hurdle. We cannot simply shut the grid down for a few years to rebuild it. We have to overhaul the entire infrastructure while it remains completely active, continuously delivering power to millions, like rebuilding an airplane mid-flight. The only viable route forward is what experts call the soft path. Instead of trying to make our infrastructure physically harder and more rigid, we have to engineer it to be flexible. A flexible system relies on localized microgrids and widespread battery storage to capture wind and solar energy when it peaks. It also requires smart technology that communicates directly with our homes, allowing appliances to automatically adjust their energy consumption based on real-time supply. Transitioning toward this kind of decentralized web transforms the grid from a brittle machine into a living network, the only architecture capable of securing a clean energy future.